Hello, BookTube. We're back from my library tour of 2022. I'm going through these books one shelf at a time. And we are here in Little Book Room, and we are on a wall, an entire wall of bookcases that I had custom made for me by a muscular teenager. And he did a really good job, and he also took my specifications, which was a rare thing. Most of the bookcases that I have, I got off the sidewalk or at thrift stores. These he made for me, and one of the things that I asked him to do on a couple of these things was to give me shelves that were, I wanted tall, thin bookcases first of all, because they are the perfect size. They are the tall, thin bookcases of the perfect dimension. You can line them up for a whole wall if you want, but you can also fit them in those odd corners where you can't fit anything else. I asked him to give me, on a couple of these things, shelves that were not only deep, but tall, so that a standard hardcover could go in there with lots of room on top, or so that a larger book could go on the shelf instead of needing to be, shoved underneath the bookcase or way up on top where I can't reach them. And we're going to be looking at that for a few shelves for these next few bookcases, because I'm noticing that a lot of larger books are mixed in. So that's what we'll do for this next shelf here. And for this next shelf here, I think there are only a couple of standard size hardcovers. All the rest are larger size. So we'll do the transverse books first. And the first one is the Illustrated Pepys, which is selections from Samuel Pepys' diary, only with lots and lots of art, so that you can tell what he's talking about. Yes, if he says that he spent the morning at the barber, you get a period illustration of what instruments the barber would have used and what it might have looked like. Things like that. Always delightful. I can always stand to have another volume of Pepys. I have a dozen of them. Then we have Lewis Wayne Walker. We have his book, The Book of Owls, which I think is a fairly recent acquisition. This is just it's just a heavily illustrated, popular overview of owls, where they live, what they do, that sort of thing. Not meant to be scientific monograph, but I love owls, so it's perfectly fine by me. Then we'll do the books on the shelf itself, and we'll start with this, also a fairly new acquisition. This is from W.W. Norton. This is the Annotated A Christmas Carol. One of these oversized things that Norton and Harvard both do, where you get the text running down the page, and then you get annotations, sometimes extensive annotations. Norton's annotations are extensive, to a work that you wouldn't think you would need explained to you, right? Obviously, we all know A Christmas Carol, but there's a lot always of historical, contextual nature that you can say about these things, and that's what makes good annotated volumes really interesting, is that they're not assuming that you need your handheld, but just helping you with extra stuff. That's lots of fun. I wish I had more of them than I do. I'm always on the lookout for either W.W. Norton or Harvard annotated volumes. All right, okay. Then we have a graphic novel. This shouldn't be in here. I have a whole hutch for graphic novels, but this is Legion Lost by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, with Oliver Coipel artwork. And this is, of course, my beloved Legion of Superheroes. Only this was a self-contained storyline in which a handful of Legionnaires, they are a superhero team of teenagers, superpowered teenagers, 1,000 years in the future. And in this particular storyline, a dozen of those Legionnaires are separated from the rest of the team by a cataclysm, and the rest of the team thinks they're dead, but they're not. They are somewhere else, somewhere in space, but very far away from their own space, and who knows how long into the future either. And it's terrific. Absolutely terrific. The first half of the graphic novel, this collects the issues that originally came out. And the first half of the graphic novel is monthly adventures that they have in this new space. But there is a plot building. There is a plot line growing in the background of all of those. And the second half of this is that plot line. And it's amazingly well done. I don't want to spoil anything for it, obviously, but that came about 10 years ago, and I love it. I reread it all the time. And this next one is Also, the Legion of Superheroes, only this is from 30 years before that. This is Vaughn that just came out from DC. This is Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes with the wraparound Mike Grell cover. And the reason why the title is slightly different is because the Legion of Superheroes was introduced as a gimmick in a Superboy comic. They came back in time. They use a time machine to go back to Smallville and talk to teenage Clark Kent, and eventually ask him to join their super team in the future, where either they will come and get him with a time machine, or later on the writers of Superboy had it that he could just pretty much do whatever he wants. He was pretty much a god, so that he could pierce the time barrier, as they called it, and go all the way to the 30th century under his own power. There isn't any way that, according to anything even remotely like sense or intercontinuity, there's no way that this character should be able to do that, much less pick the moment when he wants to arrive. But it led to a lot of great adventures, and that stayed true for a long time. Clark Kent, the adventures of Clark Kent when he was a teenager, Superboy, going into the future to visit the Legion of Superheroes, that produced hundreds and hundreds of stories. It's not true anymore. It's not the basis of the strip anymore, but or rather, it has come full circle, because in the latest iteration of the Legion, the Superboy who goes to visit is the son of Clark Kent. With the Legion, this new Twitter-approved Legion wants to adopt as their mascot. They certainly don't want him as their inspiration, because he's a white man, but they want to adopt him, as one more person to mansplain to. Not a very good iteration of Legion, in my opinion, but there'll be others. Oh, all right. Okay, great. I think this was a gift from one of you. We've mentioned before on this channel that Reader's Digest used to do hardcover editions of works of literature, often with originally commissioned artwork, and they would often be really, really good. If you've watched, for instance, Olive's channel on Book Olive, then you've seen she has a rather extensive collection of them, and there's a reason for that. They're not just curios. They're really good hardcover editions of whatever the classic you're interested in reading. And eventually they got around to the Bible. They did the Reader's Digest Illustrated Bible, and they didn't commission original artwork for this. Instead, they used religious inspired artwork from all periods, black and white and color, all throughout the text, oh, maybe they did commission illustrations. I'm seeing all of these side spot illustrations. Maybe those are originally commissioned by Reader's Digest. This is not the whole of the Bible. This is the good bits from the New Revised Standard. I'm never going to be able to dig out the illustration information here, but it could be that the spot illustrations are original to this volume. But again, like with Peeps, I have probably a dozen Bibles, and I really wanted this one. It's sometimes you really want to be accompanied by that great artwork. Okay, this one is a box edition. I don't have many boxed books, but this is from Sagalong in years past. This is from the Stockholm Royal Printing House, and it's Fritjof's Saga. See if you can make that out. Yes, it's an oversized thing, and it's illustrated all throughout. Let me get another illustration here. It has these patchwork black and white illustrations all throughout, which is a draw right there. It's also a saga that you don't get much of, and it's rendered into verse by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. So for Sagalong, I think I did a whole video on this thing. If I did, I'll try to remember to link it down below. Then we have, this came from Princeton University Press not that long ago. This probably still has a pub sheet in it. Yes, it does. This is from November of 2018. Delightful thing. I go back to it a lot. This is a visual companion to the Tale of Genji. All kinds of illustrations with not just visuals. I mean, you get a ton of guiding information as well on this ancient epic. One of a bunch of books about Genji that I have that I go back to all the time. Okay, then we have another book on owls. This is by John Burton, edited by John Burton, And it's slightly more teeth to it than the first one that we saw. It's a bigger book. This is Owls of the World. And the subtitle is Their Evolution, Structure, and Ecology. So you're still going to get lots of artwork, but you're going to get distribution, conservation status, as much as we know in a thumbnail of their natural history. So this is a little bit more technical than something, something on the wonder of owls, something like that. Then we have, what is this? Oh, right, okay. This also is a fairly new acquisition. This is a 1-volume handbook on evolution. The latest description of it, how it works, when it works, timetables, where it works, what things have existed, and how we know about them. It's called The Book of Life. New introduction by Stephen J. Gould. It's larger size and fully illustrated all throughout. I love these kinds of things, but the one drawback to this kind of a book for me usually is whether or not it's just mercilessly outdated. And so this one is not all that outdated, so it makes it a pleasure to thumb through. Okay. All right, I have mentioned many times before my love of the New Yorker cartoons in years past. Not now, not in the 21st century, where some of them are still quite good. But in the 21st century, someone can go to a commissioning editor at the New Yorker and say, here are my cartoons, when will they run? Could you give me an idea of which issues they'll run in? Skipping the whole middle part, the whole part where they're not good enough, the whole part where I don't like them, I'm the editor and I don't like them, because they know that part doesn't exist anymore. If you turn them down, they'll sue you and blacken your reputation by hurling intensely personal insults at you in public. With the result being that a huge number of New Yorker cartoons in the 21st century are awful, just awful. Worse than you would find in your local newspaper, let alone in a bad issue of the New Yorker. But for some of them are still very good, and for a long time they were excellent across the board. And the New Yorker has collected a lot of those cartoons over the years, and also some of the artists have collected their own work. And this is B. Toby. This is B. Toby of the New Yorker, which is, so it's a New Yorker cartoon collection, but it's all one cartoonist. What have we got here? This neighborhood sure has changed since I was a kid, says the little kid of the ever-changing groundwork of New York City. We have a bookish gentleman in his chair. He's got books piled on the floor. He's got books on the walls, got a book on his lap, and he's saying, a lot of you won't recognize what's going on there. That device is called a telephone. You'll have to Google that. It was a lump of plastic that we all had in our houses. We only had one. The talking device was connected to it by a cord. It had a rotary wheel for dialing the number of the person involved, and it was plugged into a special connection in the wall. So you couldn't take it with you anywhere. You couldn't consult it during grocery shopping or downhill skiing or lovemaking. It was just in one place. And the caption is, "Madam, you have a very, very, very wrong number." Obviously, you can imagine. The neat thing about New Yorker cartoons is that they often leave a lot to your imagination. You can imagine what the caller is proposing to this guy of all people. Oh, all right. Then we have another big picture book. Boy, this one has seen better days. From the 1970s. This is just the Wings Upon the Heavens, a thin celebration of birds in art. I love these kinds of things. I don't need much. If it's well done, I don't need much incentive to pick one up, especially since I'm sure this was $1. Okay, this next one is the same thing. This is John Kiernan's An Introduction to Birds, which gives us usually a paragraph breakdown of some of the top 36 kinds of birds in the United States, where they live, what they're known for, sometimes an always ill-advised attempt to orthographically represent their calls. That never works. Oh God, okay, well here we go again. This is another book on owls. This is by Michael Everett, and this is A Natural History of Owls. The tallest of the books so far that we've seen on owls. Full of details. There is an owl hunting for a mouse and then bolting it down. And this is another thing that's just wonderful to page through, although obviously, I mean, you could say it with me by now. they all ought to be together. All my owl books ought to be together. Then this one I got, I don't know. I think maybe in Vermont. Maybe I got this in Vermont. I got it last August. Well, I don't know where I got it, but this is the Saturday Evening Post book of Ships and the Sea. And it's a collection of stories from Saturday Evening Post about the sea, whether it's novels or short stories or excerpts from novels or nonfiction pieces, lavishly illustrated, and ranging all over. This was the sea-related fare was very popular with the big popular magazines for a long time. I don't think it is anymore, but it was once for a long time. This back cover, a man is on his docked boat, faithful dog waiting on the corner there in the snow, just full of tidbits from the Saturday Evening Post that you won't find anywhere else. I'm always on the lookout at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston for big Saturday Evening Post anthologies. They still exist. You can still subscribe to the Saturday Evening Post, but for a long time they were an absolute taste-making device. They had millions of subscribers. So they offered real money for their stuff, and as a result they got lots of really great stuff. And a big, well-illustrated Saturday Evening Post anthology I'm sure exists. I've just never seen it at the Brattle. But I'm eager for it because there's a lot of stuff there that they had regular writers who never went on to greater fame or tried to find fame anywhere other than in their pages that did delightful stuff. You have to find an anthology like that, or old issues. I'm obviously not going to get old issues at the Brattle. I'm sure that the Brattle will someday. I'm sure they've had many old collections, just stacks and stacks of Saturday Evening Post, but I wouldn't bother. I want an anthology of some kind, and given how popular the Saturday Evening Post was, I'm sure that it exists somewhere. Okay, then we have a big, somewhat cheesy looking, but I didn't care. I mainly cared about the size. I wanted to see all of the artwork. This is just an overview of Sir Lawrence Alma-Tadema, a Victorian painter that I really, really like. And this has a Roman emperor. We have the beginning is a monograph on Alma-Tadema. So you have photographs of all of the photographs of his period of his life, photographs of a lot of his paintings and his models and whatnot. And then the second half is the color plates, the pictures themselves, and sometimes details of them. So this is an older purchase, but I'm sure that maybe some Lawrence Alma-Tadema will be coming my way at the Brattle thanks to their acquisition of a huge art library. It's entirely possible that I'll see some volumes. Okay, and then the final one is one we saw just yesterday. This is Seasons at the New Yorker, a big, gigantic collection of season-related cartoons at the New Yorker that I just love. This is all of their covers dedicated to the seasons, and that is a trend that is ongoing. For instance, the latest cover of the New Yorker is dedicated to the seasons. It would be in this volume if you did a modern one. So there you go. That is the latest shelf. I'm once again trying to avoid getting on a step stool, but I'm getting closer and closer to sitting on the floor, which is not any better. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. The hazard of pulling books off shelves. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.